Hi everyone. For the next two assignments, we actually have the opportunity to see what it's like to work for a client. Our client is the Manager of Student Engagement and the Associate Dean. And these two assignments will be a poster and a brochure. First, watch the client video and download the event poster design file from Slate. That can be located in your content browser by scrolling down to the assignments area. Then double-click on Assignment 2 in Design Poster, which is the subfolder. And then you can download the event poster design file here. You'll notice that it's a zipped folder, and much like Photoshop and Bridge, InDesign is incapable of opening a zipped file, so be sure to copy the contents to your computer before you proceed. I've already done that step, and so now I'm ready to begin working in InDesign. Before we begin, I'd like to point out a little bit about the InDesign workspace. Here we have, across the top, the menu bar, which is much like the menu bar in Photoshop. I can create new documents and open existing documents. I can change my preferences. I can get help in InDesign. InDesign has two areas here where you can get help. You can get InDesign help here or use the Support Center, which is linked to your interface. This next area that I'd like to show you is your toolbar. And it looks a lot like some of the tools that you've seen before in Photoshop. And so it works a lot the same way. When I have a tool selected, sometimes my parameters across the top will change. You'll notice that my Options toolbar changes. I also have this area over here, which allows me to work on my pages, on my layers, linked documents, strokes, color, and swatches. And we're going to talk about how you can personalize this area here. First, let's begin by opening a document. I'm going to click on File, New Document. The first thing you'll notice on yours is that your width and height are in picas. You'll notice that mine are set to inches. I've actually changed this in my preferences. If you would like to change it from picas to inches, that's a really quick and easy thing to do. I'm going to click on Cancel and show you how to do that. For those of you on a Mac, locate Preferences from the InDesign drop-down. And for those of you on a PC, locate them here underneath the Edit drop-down. I'm going to go into Units and Increments, and this is going to allow me to change it from picas to inches. Picas are actually a unit of measurement based on a 12-point scale. And while that's an industry standard, it's much easier to work with inches. Here you're going to change your ruler units from horizontal and vertical from picas to inches. So you just go ahead and change it to inches here and here. Leave the other units to points and leave the point/pica size to 72 points per inch. You can also keep the keyboard increments to the default. When you're ready, click OK. And then when you click on File, New Document, you'll notice that your page size is set up in inches. Now there are some document presets, and you can create new document presets. If I were, for example, to constantly create documents that were using a 3-column setup, I could create a document preset that I could go to more frequently. In this case, we're going to go with the default. And I can go in here and change the intent. In this case, my intent is to print. But if I wanted to, let's say, for example, create a document for the web, or if I want to do some digital publishing, I could select these two options here. Number of pages, start page, facing pages, and primary text frame. These are all settings for multi-page documents. For example, if I were creating a book, I would have many pages. I might want my start page to start on page 2 or maybe page 6, depending on what you have at the beginning of your document. You also have facing pages so that your document would read much like it would if you were to open a book and flow through the document from page to page by flipping pages that actually face each other. In this case, page size as well gives me some defaults. So if I click on the down caret here, I'll notice a number of different page documents that are already created. I can also create a custom document. In this case, I could create a document that I could call Poster. My width would be based on what the customer has requested, so my width would be 10 inches, and my height would be 13 inches. So here I would click on OK, and you'll notice that I now have a page size that's a poster dimension width 10 by 13. The orientation here allows me to flip the width and height. So if I wanted to have a poster orientation that wasn't portrait, I wanted a landscape, I would click on Landscape, and you'll notice that when I did that, it flipped the two dimensions. However, I want a poster layout, so I'm going to click on Poster, and now you'll notice that it flipped it back to 10 by 13 inches. This area here, columns, allows you to set the number of text columns that you have in your document. In this case, it's set to 1, which means I only have one primary area. But if I was creating a newsletter or a newspaper or a magazine article and I wanted to have a number of different columns, InDesign takes the hard work out and actually divides the page into the number of columns that you want for you. It also allows you to set the gutter size. So if I wanted to specify exactly the distance between the 2 columns or 3 columns, that's how I would do that here. You'll notice that in margins, I have a link area in the middle. This link tells InDesign to make all the settings the same: top, bottom, inside, and outside margins. If you don't want your margins to be the same, you just click on this link to break the link, and basically that tells InDesign that you want to have something different from top, bottom, inside, and outside, and you could customize those. In this case, I want them to be linked, and I'm just going to keep the standard margins. The next area here is bleed and slug. If you're not seeing this part here in your document, all you need to do is click on the down caret next to the word bleed, and it's going to expand this box. In this area, you can set the bleed, and your customer has requested a very specific bleed on that document. In that case, you want to put a 0.25 here as per the customer's request. When I click on Tab, it's going to populate the entire bleed from top, bottom, inside, and outside because I have this link. If you don't have this link, all you do is click on the little link and it will make all of your settings the same. Now what a bleed is, it's the area that will be trimmed off from a document because printing machines are not always able to print to the edges of a page. So that if you have an image or text element that you want touching the edge of the page, the bleed allows your printer to do that by having an extra little area that it's going to shave off after the document has been printed. Now I'm ready to say OK, and I can click on OK. Now here is my InDesign interface. This area here is my document. This area above the pink and purple lines are my margins. This area here with this gray area and this red line is my bleed. And this area here to the left and to the right of my document, this is called my pasteboard. Now the way that InDesign works is it imitates a drafting board of old times. When a person who was creating a document to be published, what they would do is they would work on a drafting table and they would use rubber cement on the back of their pictures, and they would then place all of their pictures on the pasteboard as well as their text boxes, which would have been typed out or printed at that time, and they would have placed it and measured it and put it on their pasteboard, and then they would put all of those items onto the document and kind of move them around until they found a pleasing configuration for the layout. InDesign really imitates that space. So while I'm working in InDesign, I can take all kinds of different documents from elsewhere on my computer. I can use a paragraph here from Word document and place it here. I could get a logo from Illustrator and place it here. I could take an image from Photoshop and place it here. I could take a graph from Excel and place it here. And then when I'm ready, I would click, drag, and drop them into place wherever I wanted them to show up. And then I could move them around. InDesign is really user-friendly because it really is just a click, drag, and drop interface. And so it works really, really well. In the next video, we're going to talk about how you can create linked documents within InDesign.